The world is being choked by a bottleneck exactly 200 meters wide, the Suez Canal. When the ship Ever Given ran aground, it froze $9.6 billion worth of goods per day. When conflict erupted in the Red Sea, shipping costs skyrocketed by 900%. Israel understands this message better than anyone else. If Suez stops operating, their country will be completely isolated. Refusing to accept that fate, Tel Aviv activated a contingency plan, the Southern Gateway Project. The goal? Turn desert into ocean, connect the Red Sea and the Mediterranean by land. This is a $25 billion investment to escape dependence on Egypt, and it is about to reshape the entire flow of Asia-Europe trade. This country is like an island surrounded on land. Its northern and eastern borders are blocked by mountain ranges and unstable geopolitics. Every overland trade route carries risk. As a result, 98% of the goods that run the economy, from wheat and oil to equipment, must arrive by sea. Israel has two major ports, Ashdod and Haifa, but they sit on the Mediterranean, facing Europe. For goods from Asia, the world's factory to reach them, every ship must pass through a single choke point, the Suez Canal. Suez is controlled exclusively by Egypt, and history has proven this to be a direct threat to Israel. After the 1967 war, Egypt blockaded the canal for 8 years. Ships were forced to detour around Africa, adding 6,000 kilometers to the journey. But the context of the 21st century has changed the nature of this threat. It is no longer just an issue between Israel and Egypt, but a matter of survival for the global supply chain. 12% of global trade, including 30% of the world's container traffic, must pass through Suez. When the ship Ever Given blocked the canal in the year 2021, it did not merely disrupt traffic. It froze $9.6 billion in goods per day. Car factories in Germany were forced to shut down due to parts shortages. Oil prices in New York surged, and store shelves in London went empty. That event was a severe warning for Israel. Their economy was dependent on a passage only 200 meters wide, located on another country's territory. The situation became even more serious in late 2023 and early 2024. The Red Sea crisis, where unmanned aerial vehicles were used to attack container ships worth hundreds of millions of dollars, exposed the fragility of this sea route. Risk insurance premiums for vessels transiting the Red Sea surged by 900% in just a few weeks. The world's largest shipping companies, such as Maersk and Hapag-Lloyd, were forced to announce a suspension of passage through Suez. As a result, more than 2,000 cargo ships were forced to cancel their routes and choose the detour around the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa. This added $1 million in fuel costs per voyage and extended delivery times by 14 days. For Israel, this meant surging imported inflation and threatened energy security. They realized that in an unstable world, having no backup option is a serious economic mistake. Take 3 seconds. When the ship Ever Given ran aground, did gasoline and goods prices where you live spike suddenly? Comment yes or no and the name of your country below. Let real-world data speak. Israel looks southward, toward the city of Eilat, the country's only gateway to the Red Sea. But Eilat is a major geographic obstacle. Its coastline is only 11 kilometers long, squeezed between the borders of Jordan and Egypt. Behind it rise steep, rocky mountains. The current port of Eilat is too small, with limited depth, unable to accommodate modern mega-container ships that require a minimum depth of 16 meters. Unable to expand out to sea, they chose to push inward. The Southern Gateway project is designed to be built in the lowland north of Eilat, 7 kilometers inland from the coast. The Panama Canal took 10 years to complete at the cost of 25,000 workers' lives, mainly to solve the problem of differing water levels. But in the Negev desert, the challenge is not water level, it is gravity and geology. Digging the water channel, a canal 300 meters wide would be cut straight from the coastline into the desert. This excavation is nothing like digging the soft soil of Suez. The Negev desert is composed of hard granite and limestone. Engineers would need to use precision rock-breaking technology and massive tunnel boring machines, similar to those used to drill tunnels through the Swiss Alps. The battle against evaporation. This is the technical detail that raises the most serious doubts among experts. At temperatures of 50 degrees Celsius, the evaporation rate of seawater in artificial reservoirs would be extreme. This leads to a phenomenon known as hypersalinity. As water evaporates, salt remains. Without a continuous water circulation system, salt concentrations would quickly corrode steel ship hulls and destroy reinforced concrete pumps within just a few years. Israel would need to pump in and discharge enormous volumes of water every hour simply to keep salinity levels balanced, effectively turning the port into an artificial river that never stops flowing. The massive pumping system, unlike natural canals where water flows downhill, the terrain north of Eilat gradually rises. To push seawater 7 kilometers inland, Israel would have to force the water uphill. This requires building a dedicated independent power facility solely to supply these pumping stations. Preliminary calculations show that the electricity consumption needed to operate this desert port would be equivalent to the demand of a city of 100,000 people. At a time when Israel is trying to transition toward green energy, this represents a major energy challenge: the impermeable lining. To prevent salt water from seeping in and damaging the desert's precious freshwater aquifers, the entire port basin and canal bed must be lined with reinforced concrete and special polymer waterproof membranes. This technology has never been deployed at such a massive scale. If this structure were to crack due to an earthquake, and it must be remembered that the Rift Valley is a highly seismic zone, salt water would permanently contaminate the groundwater, turning the entire desert region into land that cannot be cultivated. But a port in the middle of the desert would be useless if goods remained stranded there. The vast and rugged Negev desert separates the south from the economic center of Tel Aviv. Trucks must spend hours traveling along a single risky route. This is where the most critical element appears: the Red Sea-Mediterranean Railway. A double-track, high-speed railway 350 kilometers long, would directly connect the new desert port to Ashdod and Tel Aviv. However, Israel's vision does not stop at its own borders. This project is actually part of a much larger strategy known as the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. Announced at the G20 summit in 2023, IMEC is the direct response by the United States and its Western allies to competing trade initiatives. The plan is to create a seamless trade route. Goods from Mumbai, India, travel by ship to Dubai, then move by rail across Saudi Arabia and Jordan, enter Israel's railway network, and finally reach the Mediterranean on their way to Europe. In this scenario, Israel's desert port and Negev railway become the most critical transshipment hub connecting east and west without passing through Suez. If IMEC becomes reality, shipping time from India to Germany would be reduced by 40% compared to the current route. Remarkably, even as conflict continues, an early version of this land bridge has already been operating quietly. Transportation technology companies such as TruckNet have established a Red Sea bypass trucking route. Goods arrive at Jebel Ali port in Dubai, are loaded onto trucks that cross the Arabian desert, pass through Jordan, and enter Israel directly via the Jordan River crossing. Although trucking costs are 3 times higher than sea freight, the route is 20 days faster than detouring around Africa. The existence and effective operation of this trucking corridor is real-world proof that the demand is genuine. Logistics corporations prioritize speed and security, and this trans-desert route provides both when maritime routes become risky. Creating these maps and analyses has taken hundreds of hours of research. If you find this content valuable, support the channel by clicking like and subscribe now. Your small action is a huge motivation for us. Now, Let's examine why this project may turn out to be an economic mistake. But in reality, it faces major barriers that make many investors hesitate. First, the investment efficiency problem. The history of global infrastructure is full of expensive but ineffective projects. Look at Spain's Ciudad Real airport, built at a cost of 1 billion euros, only to be abandoned because no one used it. Or the completely empty urban developments in some countries. The construction cost of the Southern Gateway project is estimated at between $20 and $25 billion. To recover this investment, Israel would need an enormous volume of cargo passing through every day. But would shipping companies accept the cost of double handling? Goods must be unloaded from ships onto trains, then unloaded again from trains onto ships in the Mediterranean. Each transfer adds cost and risk of damage. If Suez Canal fees decrease, or the Red Sea situation stabilizes again, Israel's expensive route could lose its traffic, turning it into a massive financial burden. Second, irreversible environmental risk. The Gulf of Aqaba is home to the world's northernmost coral reef system that has remained healthy in the face of climate change. Scientists call them supercorals because of their extraordinary heat tolerance. This could be a priceless genetic resource for preserving coral reefs worldwide. Dredging millions of tons of sediment and continuously pumping seawater would alter currents, temperature, and water turbidity. Marine biologists warn, just a single oil or chemical leak within this closed system would permanently destroy the entire 7,000-year-old coral reef ecosystem. There would be no chance to reverse the damage. For Islet's diving tourism industry, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, this project represents a serious threat. Third, the reaction from Egypt. This is the most sensitive issue. The Suez Canal generates between $9 and $10 billion per year for Egypt and is a critical source of foreign currency. Any project that threatens to share this market is viewed by Cairo as a direct act of economic confrontation. Egypt has already responded. It has just completed the expansion of a second lane of the Suez Canal and is investing heavily in upgrading its own railway infrastructure. An economic rivalry between Israel and Egypt could affect diplomatic relations that have existed for more than 40 years. Egypt plays a key role in regional airspace and security cooperation factors Israel must carefully consider. At present, the area designated for the port still has nothing but wind and sand. There are no cranes, no excavators. The project remains stalled at the debate stage due to funding and environmental concerns. Yet, human history is written by bold ideas. The Suez Canal was once considered impossible. The Panama Canal buried many failed attempts before becoming reality. And more recently, the Channel Tunnel, connecting Britain and France, was once dismissed as a fantasy. Yet today, it is the lifeline of Europe. Israel now stands at a historic crossroads. On one side is the safety of the present, coupled with the risk of dependence on others. On the other is a massive $25 billion investment to take control of its own destiny. In a world where geopolitics is increasingly polarized and supply chains are being used as tools of pressure, the value of independence cannot be measured in money. If this project succeeds, it will not only transform Israel's economy, it will restructure the flow of Asia-Europe trade, reduce the dominance of old routes, and create a new axis linking major economies. Will we see giant container ships anchored in the middle of the Negev desert within the next 10 years? Or will this remain nothing more than drawings on paper? One thing is certain, the world is changing, and old trade routes are gradually revealing their limitations. Whoever dares to draw a new path will hold the key to the global economy in the 21st century. The race between desert and sea has only just begun.